All right, guys. So for unscripted, we use a ridiculous amount of gear. The last shoot I was on, we regularly had 4 to 5 regular cameras rolling in a day, 3 GoPros, sometimes 4, a drone, and some shoots end up with 100 GoPros, 20 drones, dozens of regular cameras. Gear gets extensive. So there are a few things you want to keep in mind with shoots in unscripted. You're going to need a lot of gear. You want all of your settings to match, and you want easy sync in post. We're also going to talk about depth of field and some tricks for recording verite and recording unscripted scenes. So let's look at a few settings. You guys are going to be using Canon C100s because we have a lot of them. These are first gen Canon C100s, so they have a few things to them. We're going to go through the menu settings. I'm also going to link you guys a great video someone did of a general overview of this camera, so I'm not going to go through all the details on building it because we already have a great video on that, but I want to go through specific details that you need to know for this class and for shooting with this camera unscripted. All right, so I have the camera on already. I've just got a lens cap on, so it's easier to look at the screen and see some of the settings. And we're going to go through the menu one setting at a time. First thing, I always recommend that you dual record if you possibly can. The video I linked to you guys, he just did 1 card, but do 2 cards and dual record. Because if 1 card goes bad, then you have the other card and you can check later to make sure that you have all of your footage on both cards before you dump them. All right, so going through the menu. So there's the menu button on the back and over here. Under camera, shutter is just shutter increment, 1/4 stop is fine for you guys. Cinema locked, remember that's if you want to shoot in log. Don't shoot in log, guys. Actually, I'll do this so you guys can see. Log. Unless you want to get into color, I highly recommend that you do not shoot in log because of the speed at which we'll be working in this class. If you love color correction and want to shoot log, go for it. That's where you change it. Auto black balance, please make sure you guys do that before you shoot. And that's done with the lens cap on. All right, and that is it for here. Audio input, you guys are using these audio handles. Mic low cut is off. Mic sensitivity normal. All of these aren't even features with this. And your output is just your channel 1 and 2. Headphone volume, this is where you change headphone volume. Sometimes you will be recording audio straight to camera. So, just beware of headphone volume versus actual levels. Okay, video setup, character display, external out, so that we are actually getting to the external monitor all of your information. HD on-screen display on, SD off. Make sure everything is set to, no adjustments. You only want your brightness natural. You don't want to be, actually, right, 2 is right in the middle. You do not want to be artificially changing your monitor and getting confused. I like zebras on so that you can see like the top of the screen where we are at 70% plus or minus 5. And I believe that's all. All right, time code. Guys, get in this habit now. You want your mode to be free run, so it's always running, not just running when you roll. Drop frame. Settings, set this to time of day. Or ideally what you do is you have your sound mixer count up while they're reading off time code. So like 12, 37, a 1, 2, 3, and you already had a 5. Set, and then you press set right at 5. So I'll show you how that works. So let's say 10 is going to be our time. All right, so get this down to 0 frames. So the sound mixer will count out loud 12, 37, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That way you will be very close to jam synced. Of course, it's always better if you can actually jam sync or have a tentacle system. These cameras don't accept time code, and we just don't have the gear for that. But even if you can't get perfect sync, you want time code running. We want to always use every form of sync assistance we can, which includes running scratch track audio on the camera so that you have sound to sync to, time code, and manual slating. Ideally, you will never, ever, ever use the slate to sync in post. You'll use either time code or sync by sound in Premiere or Resolve or whatever. And then you will just use the slate for informational purposes and to verify sync or to just kind of move things a little bit. You always want to have a bare minimum of 2 of those 3 systems for syncing, ideally all 3. Don't skip this step. You don't need to do anything in user bit, or you shouldn't, but I just want to go through everything. We're not resetting. We're loading and saving to and loading from SD cards. Nothing should be there. Time zone, doesn't really matter if you set it. Set clock, if it needs to change it. This clock I just set. If you need to change the language, tally lamp. Now, a lot of people will, for unscripted, turn off the tally light. I don't recommend this. The reason to do it is so people don't know when you're rolling or not, or so it's not a distraction. I would leave it on so people do know when you're rolling. System frequency, we are in America, 59.94. I prefer double record, right? I put the 2 SD cards in, recording to both. This gives safety. Continuous record is off, doesn't matter. Bit rate, you want to use 24 megabits per second LPCM. It means recording uncompressed audio because you frequently will be recording audio that you need from the camera. You don't want the camera compressing audio. A lot of unscripted does get shot in 30 frames. You guys should use 24p just because that's the standard at the school. And that way, if these cameras swap around, someone doesn't get messed up. HDMI if time code's off. Initialize media, this is where you format your cards. So you just go through the menu and say okay. For slot A and slot B, you can see I've got, I think, 256 gigabyte cards in here. 1,423 minutes is what these will record. It's pretty, they're HD cameras, guys. It's 1080. It is fine for unscripted and for what you guys are doing with this class. It is better that you are able to get the gear than to have newer gear that can shoot 4K. A lot of television is still just delivered in 1080 or possibly upscaled to 4K. And it is fine for learning on for sure. You always want to format your cards in camera, even if they were blank cards formatted somewhere else, because it can change the file structure of the camera. All right, so that is our basic setup. Let me get out of the menu. Now, we are going to look at this a lot in class, and play with this. Something that is really important to keep in mind with unscripted is depth of field. So this is at a 105 and an f4. You can see there's a lot of focus. But I want things to be in more focus, right? I don't want to have to be this precise with this shallow depth of field. I want a wider depth of field. So first I'm going to widen out my lens. You can see that does a lot by being at the other end of the spectrum and at a 24. As I rack between those two. And then I'm going to up my f-stop as well, okay? So let's roll up. Let's go up to like an f13. So we're gonna have to change our ISO so that we have enough light to see. I'm gonna go back to a normal frame rate. Normal shutter speed, sorry. All right, now you can see it's pretty minimal, the difference in focus needed. So if you're doing reality television and unscripted and somebody's going to be moving, you want to have your f-stop higher and you want to have your lens wider in general. So you can see even with this, I'm going to keep that f-stop. So I'm going to up my ISO. Sorry. I keep the f-stop. So I will up the ISO. It's still even at that long end of the lens because the f-stop is higher, the depth of field is wider and less shallow. See, I could split the difference here and you can almost read the writing on both. If I go back out and split the difference, you can see. So we're going to do a lot of experiments in class where you guys just practice this. Stop recording on here and see what the f-stop, focal length, ISO relationship really does for your ability to capture content in focus. Now, the other thing is you're going to be doing a lot of handheld. That's why I have the strap on. When you do handheld, you want to have as many points of contact as you can. So I will show you what that looks like. Of course, I just want to make sure I have said this. Whenever you walk away from a camera, you make sure that your tilt is locked so it can't fall over, and your pan is loose so if somebody passes by and hits the arm moves. All right, so we're going to take the camera off the tripod. And when you're doing handheld, a lot of handheld, because guys, your takes could go 20, 30 minutes. I've held a camera for 2 or 3 hours before in a row. A monopod is ideal so that you have some support and you can use a camera tripod as a monopod. Of course, we'd raise the legs more to kick the legs together, but you want to be careful. You don't want this camera holding all the weight of this tripod. So if you're using it as a monopod like this, so you can move quickly, make sure you pick up the tripod to move when you move. So you would have a hand on the tripod and a hand on the camera. My trick for handheld, and I've got another video with some other tricks to show you guys too, maximize your points of contact. So use the shoulder strap. See, I've got it going over my neck and underneath my arm. And I use my body as a tripod. So I'm pushing with the strap against my body. I can still have a hand here and a hand on the lens, but that helps me to be able to move and to keep it as steady as I can by essentially adding my 2 legs as legs to a tripod. So it's a little bit better. And then we do a triangle with arms and it helps. And we'll be practicing this a lot.